Here's what I want to say about fiction versus nonfiction. I was reading this textbook for my class that I'm taking on documentary film. And in the textbook it said that fiction is a form of documentary. If you think about it, fiction is a kind of documentary where we're watching something play out, and it's all created, it's all fictional, but I'm not really good with words. It sort of, everything takes the form of a documentary, because a documentary is just an examination of people, and a fictional story is a documentary of a story that was created by people. Each fictional story has a documentary to it, because really that's an actor pretending, and that's a director directing that we don't see behind the screen, and there's a writer who wrote that. All of that is real. And if documentary filmmaking Fiction is fake, but that fakeness is real. It's something real, created by real people, and that has contained in it a documentary. So in that sense, documentaries and fictions are the same. Fiction is just a documentary of people pretending. But I don't love that definition, and I thought it was a bit pretentious, really, to call, you're making your textbook about documentary production. Of course you're going to call everything a documentary. It's, you have a bias, an incentive to call everything documentary, but I could also call everything fiction. Because fiction has within it, fiction has documentary contained, documentary has fiction contained within it. Fiction is documentary has a fiction to it too. It's edited. You choose what moments you're showing. You choose what people you're showing. You might add narration. You might add interviews. All these things create a narrative that isn't necessarily true, that isn't necessarily real. The only real way we can experience things is with our eyes, with our brains. Once we turn that into a 2D moving image, it's not real anymore. That becomes fiction. So, if I was a big fiction fan, which I am, I could say really everything is fiction. But of course the documentarian says everything is nonfiction. Well, maybe they're both right. Maybe neither of them are right. It's really not important. It's not important. What? Is this fictional right now? Or is it non-fictional? I'm saying my thoughts, which is non-fiction, but it's not like this is spontaneous. It is kind of, but it's not like it's I've thought about this and now I'm saying it's not like this is a snapshot of reality. But then it's not a fiction, is it? Am I a character? These words start to stop making sense. And it becomes, why am I even trying to label these things? Just create stuff and categorize it later. Categorizations for reflections, for critique. It's not for creation. I made this video to disagree. That was my original intention. And say that fiction is actually more important, harder, and more truthful. Is it still recording? Anyway, it's more important, it's harder, and it's more truthful. Fiction. And I'll explain why. It's more important because it's more truthful. That's circular. It's harder because you have to create something. When I make a fictional story, you have to sit and you have to prepare. You have to prepare, you have to prepare, you have to prepare. A documentary you just shoot. I'm starting to think that I'm not correct. Because the documentary, it's true that you can just shoot and you can't, it's much easier, the preparation. But the post-production is a lot harder because you have to create the story there. All you have is a bunch of loose footage, sometimes hours and hours of footage, and you have to make that into something cohesive that, and I guess you don't have to. You can also leave it, say it's an experiment. But you have to take that and you have to make it into something cohesive, and you have to tell a story with it. That's where the work comes in, after you're done shooting. With fiction, you can have it all previs, storyboarded out, and obviously things happen, but a lot of times you can look at the storyboards and you can look at the final product and match them up, shot for shot, sometimes. Like, that's less work for the editor. Editing a documentary is actually more work. It's more creative work. Really, that creativity of creating a narrative does exist in both. So I'm wrong. I'm still going to title the video, "Fiction is harder than, or better than nonfiction." Here's why I thought it was more important, and it's more important because it's more truthful. Here's why I say it's more truthful. It's more truthful because it's more important. It's circular, remember? But really, it's more truthful because in the edit you can do a lot. You can change a lot. That's true whether your story is fictional or whether it's non-fictional. But in a fictional story, you can almost tell more truth, because you can tell a realer truth, a contained story, something that says everything in one go, something that explains a life in 90 minutes. To really capture reality in 90 minutes takes a fiction. It takes condensing our real experiences into something smaller. And with huge themes like life and death, those have to be condensed too into something that fits in 90 minutes. That is fiction. That's what fiction does. It takes life and smushes it. It takes reality and truth and it puts it in a little box for you. When you just look at a moment, when you just look at a documentary, sometimes you miss the greater whole. With a story, you can tell the whole. With a fictional story, you can tell that entire story in 90 minutes. by taking advantage of lying, by taking advantage of editing, and taking advantage of storytelling, taking advantage of all these devices, you can tell a story. I guess you could do that with a documentary too. In the editing room, we talked about fiction. Hi. It's almost harder to do that in the edit. Anyway, how do I take this and tell the truth with it? With a story, you can just tell the truth. You can just tell the truth.